Hello everybody, Calamity here, or at least that's the name Father gave me. Today's video is going to be all about helping you clear floor 12 of the Spiral Abyss. I'm going to try to give you some general strategies for dealing with each chamber. I'm going to slowly walk you through each enemy lineup and show you the best ways to deal with them. Now for teams, obviously it's hard to recommend, hey, just use this team on the first half and just use this team on the second half, because we all have different accounts, we all have different characters, 5-star weapons. So on the first half team, I am doing a variation of the international team. So instead of Sucrose, I'm using Kazuha. If you don't have Kazuha, then use Sucrose. Rosaria here instead of Chongyun or Jingcho. As you can see, my Jingcho is being used on my second half team, so I had to improvise, put Rosaria instead. Benny here, of course, just to be our healer and or buffer. Battery for Zhonling as well. Second half team is just a standard-ish Hyper Bloom team. We are using Cookie Shinobu as our trigger for Hyper Bloom reactions. Jingcho here for his excellent Hydro application. Now, obviously, Nahida going to be also one of the best Dendro appliers in the game, but if you don't have her, Dendro Traveler is a good second option. There are others as well, like Yao Yao, Kirara, just, pick whoever you got built. In fact, I also do recommend just bringing 2 Dendros if you don't have Nahida, like a Dendro Traveler and a Yao Yao or something, just to get that extra bit of Dendro help. Now for my 4th slot, I do have Barbara here, mainly just for Chamber 1 because there's those 3 Pyro mages and we need extra Hydro to just break those shields just a bit faster. So that's my team. You don't have to use this exact team lineup if you don't want to. It's just what I'm using to help make explaining each chamber a little bit easier for myself. Alright, the first tip I'm going to give you, if you're unfamiliar with how the Spiral Abyss works, you get 3 random buff cards before you start each chamber. And you can see there's ones that affect the entire floor, meaning the entirety of floor 12. They will continue to buff your characters. Or ones that are specific for this chamber. So you can see this one is when I have less than 58% HP, I will gain 60% attack. That can be really huge. So always check your buffs. If there's a chamber in particular that you're struggling with, try to check the chamber buffs. Maybe you'll get something that'll really help you out. And then we have burst and HP percentage here. Now keep in mind the buffs you get are randomized for everybody. And if you are unhappy with the buffs you got and there's still time on the Abyss, you can always wait the next day and hope you get better cards. You never know, maybe a really good buff card is the difference between you 3-starring a chamber and you just being seconds off. Now for my run, I'm just going to go ahead and pick the elemental burst damage plus 20%. That should be good for my first half team. So the first chamber is this seahorse boss. It does mainly electro damage. The thing about this boss is you want to break that shield. You see how it has a shield on its chest? We want to break that. Whoop, not get hit in the process as well. And to break it, we want to use, well, not Electro and definitely not Hydro either. Hydro does not help break this shield faster. So we just want to keep using all our elements and other skills and whatnot to break the shield while trying to dodge the attacks. They are pretty telegraphed. I keep forgetting about that secondary explosion there. So if you're unable to break the shield like I was, he'll jump into the air and summon these 3 things here. You can basically break them with any element, like you're just breaking the shield, just like so. You break all 3, it stuns the boss, and it loses its shield in the process. So we're gonna wail on it by doing all of our bursts. And you can see we're doing much more reasonable damage and killing it. I don't think we'll be able to kill it in this rotation, but we can try. Basically just trying to wail on it there, and then he's getting his shield back. And then so you can see he gets his shield back and then he goes back to doing his attacks again. So we're going to redo this chamber and we're going to break the shield as fast as we can and try to kill it with much more time on the clock for our second half team.
料理の時間だよ。許さない。はっはっ燃えろ。全力攻撃。風よ諦めて震えなさい。もみ違う散らまく惜しみスオパー許さない。みんながそばにいた。はっやっパーフェクト。話が通じないなら雲なく借りなく時くらえ。
So this is the second half of floor 12 chamber 1. Now the first thing that spawns is going to be a wave of Geo Rift Hounds. So if you're not familiar with this enemy, they will chew through shields, so don't bring a shielder as your only source of defense in this half. Bring at least a healer if you're not comfortable with relying on your dodging skills. So yeah, we have that, and then we have 3 Pyro Mages that will spawn after we defeat all of the Rift Hounds. But going back to the Rift Hounds, don't forget that you can actually weaken them by using the element that the Rift Hounds are. So if the Rift Hounds are Electro and we do Electro damage, they'll kind of do like a roar. And when they do that roar, they'll do more damage, but they'll also lose their resistance to the element they are. So the Electro ones will lose Electro resistance, and then the Geo ones lose Geo resistance. Makes sense, right? So you can keep that in mind when building a team for the second half. If you want to have a little bit more advantage and kill the Rift Hounds a bit faster. Alright, start by applying our Dendro. And we apply our Hydro, Electro, and that's pretty much the Hyper Bloom setup, right? So now we can just spam our attacks. So basically applying so much of our elements here. We definitely want to focus the larger Rift Hounds, right? They're gonna be more tankier and harder to deal with, so let's get them out the way, or at least try to focus them down if we can. We can't really control where our Hyper Blooms go, but we can control where our normal attacks go, and our elemental skill usage goes, so... Once you destroy all of the Rift Hounds, try to run towards the back of the arena, away from the 3 mages, and try to get them to spawn on you. There we go. I was gonna say I got a little unlucky there. Now we want to break these shields fast as we can by using a mixture of Jincho and Barbara's attacks. It's a little annoying when they teleport like that, right? Try to break this dude's shield. There we go. Now we can pretty much just chill. Once you break their shield, it's pretty easy, right? You can just chill, and maybe you don't chill too much, but you can just finish them off easily. The harder part is just getting them to group up and then trying to break their shields down as fast as you can. Sometimes you might get unlucky and you might have to redo. That's just, you know, that's just how it be. I'm sorry. But just try your best to run to the edge of the arena, and hopefully all 3 of them teleport on you, and then just burst down those shields. So I got better cards here for sure. I got crit rate and crit damage. That's great for my first half team. Doesn't matter for Hyper Bloom though. And then this one is 40% more attack at the cost of 15% defense, which is also going to be good. I'll pick the least buffing card, which is only going to increase my healing effectiveness by 20, just so, you know, my damage numbers don't get too skewed here. So moving on to Chamber 2 first half. This chamber is pretty straightforward. It's only just 2 bishops and then the 2 mecha enemies. So let's just go ahead and get started here. Now this is the second half of Chamber 2. This is the dancing robots boss. If you did the previous iteration of the Spiral Abyss, it is not the same fight as before. This is the other version. The previous version had them having cryo shields that you had to consistently break down. This version, they don't have any cryo shields, so you don't need to bring pyro for them, which is nice. However, they've gone full offensive here, and they're going to do a barrage of attacks. Now, you can either try to out-heal it. You know, my team has double heals, so we can definitely just out-heal all their damage. You can use shields. You can use your 5-star burst to iframe through their attacks. Or you can just learn how to dodge them by having the camera on both the robots so you can see when those attacks are coming. Whichever way you want to do it, it's totally up to you, but let's go ahead and just get this chamber started. So we're going to apply our Dendro, Hydro, Electro. We're going to try to apply our Electro. There we go. So there's our Hyper Bloom setup. Now try to keep your camera on both, unlike what I just did there, because yeah, the male dancer is going to do some attacks off to the side. You definitely need to keep your camera on him so you can see them coming. Now I just need to get my elements back. The female dancer is going to do some simple AoE attacks while the male dancer is gone, like that. Whoops. So just make sure you're backed up. Now we have plenty of time to down this boss. I'm just trying to showcase a little bit more of their attacks. But they pretty much just... Once you get the hang of their cycle, that's all they pretty much do. They don't really mix it up. There's our Hyper Bloom setup again. I'm trying not to use too much resources so that we can go into Chamber 3 with bursts, but this should be fine. There we go. Again, in my opinion, Chamber 2 is probably the easiest because, I mean, you can either learn their attacks and learn how to properly dodge them, or just shield through it, heal through it, you know, whatever. It's all going to work out the same. So this is the final chamber of floor 12. In the first half, we only have 3 enemies, which is nice. However, all 3 are pretty tanky and can deal a lot of damage if we're not careful. So the first enemy is just a Mirror Maiden. If you're unfamiliar with the Mirror Maiden, you shouldn't be if you're at this point of the game, but let's talk about how she works. When she spawns in, one of her basic attacks that she'll do is spawn 3 water circles in sort of like an AoE around her. If you step in any of these 3 circles, the Mirror Maiden is going to buff herself significantly, and she's going to become much tankier, immune to CC, and she's going to be able to do much more deadlier attacks. So we want to prevent her from ever getting this buff. But try not to step in the AoE water circles when you see them. The second tip about the Mirror Maiden is she can be CC'd, so try to keep knocking her around, keep stunning her so she can't cast her abilities, but she'll still be able to force a water circle attack out at some point. Let's go ahead and get started with this chamber. So there she is. You can see we can knock her around like this. We're using Kazuha, I use Rosaria. Keep knocking her. Do not let her ever just freely cast her stuff. You can also freeze her, don't forget that. So there's the water circles, let's stay out of them. Go back in. She can still be pulled. Uh-oh. Stay out of the water circles again. Oh, she did get her buff, but it is last minute. She's already pretty low, so this isn't too bad. But, whoops. I was pressing the wrong button there. Now, the last 2 are these brand new operatives. Whoops. They can hurt, so be careful. They are susceptible to CC, so we can pull both of them in like that. Be very careful of their attacks. Good thing they're telegraphed. Go ahead and just keep putting on the damage. Don't be afraid to take up a lot of time for this chamber. This one's the hard. Honestly, this one's the harder chamber. Let's go ahead and use all our bursts. Oh, I lost the other one for a sec. There we go, and that is it. Now the second half, I forget the name of this boss, but this is the boss that makes the gravity, it lowers the gravity so you're able to jump higher. This boss has a special interaction if you have, I believe it's called Numia damage. I believe the only character that we have that can do that is Nuvolette. If you are able to have that sort of damage in the future though, you can use it to stun the boss temporarily. But if you don't have it, that's okay. I don't have it either. We're just gonna power through the boss. This boss is honestly very easy to deal with and not hard at all. It's just very, very tanky. Just bring your best single target teams to take care of it. So we're gonna apply our Dendro. There's our Hydro. There's our Electro. Now this boss lowers the gravity as I mentioned before, and you can see you can either spam jump and you'll pretty much dodge the big shockwave attack it does if you just keep actually spamming the jump here, or you can shield it, you can iframe through it with your bursts. It's honestly up to you on how you want to approach this boss. But most of his attacks are pretty easy to deal with, or you can just heal through them. Like that, we can just iframe through them, no problem. Okay, but let's go ahead and finish up this boss. There isn't really too much to say about it other than just damage it. I got an achievement for doing something. GG. So that is pretty much the Spiral Abyss in a nutshell. I hope this was able to be somewhat helpful to anyone that's struggling on this one. And to be honest, this Spiral Abyss iteration, much like the last one, isn't too hard. It's just tricky, right? It's tricky because there's so many new enemies and we have to learn their mechanics and their attacks. Once you actually do that, it's honestly not that bad. Having characters that can pull your enemies and bring them close together for you is going to help. Kazuha, Sucrose, even Venti can do this for you. So keep in mind those characters are going to be very helpful for you here. And again, you do not have to use the teams that I used to be successful in the Spiral Abyss. There are plenty of teams you can use. We could have done a Raiden International team variation, for example. You could have done Alhaitham main carry team, Tartaglia International team, a Freeze team with Ayaka, Milk on you. There's just so many characters and DPSs like to choose from these days that honestly they all work. And that's the beauty of Spiral Abyss, is that we can all do our our preferred teams for the most part and all be really successful and get all the stars and all the pretty primo gems. So if there's anything else that wasn't explained well enough, please feel free to ask some questions down below. If you're struggling to find a team, maybe I can help you out, or maybe someone else can also help you out if they so choose. If you have your own Spiral Abyss tips, feel free to leave them down in the comments as well. I'd love to know your tips and tricks on how you made this Spiral Abyss a lot easier for yourself. Yeah, with that being said, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content. I'll be making more in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.